Stephanie, a young and talented costume designer, had recently landed a job in the historic Belfry Theatre. The theatre, with its ornate architecture, had long been abandoned due to rumours of it being haunted. But the new owners wanted to revive its lost glory, and Stephanie was to play a pivotal role in its comeback. On her first day, Stephanie was left alone in the dimly lit basement where the costumes were stored. As she rummaged through old trunks and racks, she stumbled upon a beautiful, ancient-looking gown adorned with tiny silver bells. Intrigued, she decided to try it on. The moment she wore the gown, she heard soft whispers around her. They seemed to be coming from the belfry above. "Return! Return! Return!" The voice echoed eerily. Stephanie quickly took off the gown, her heart racing, but the whispers didn't stop. Gathering her courage, Stephanie decided to investigate. She made her way to the belfry, the whispers growing louder with every step. There, she found an old rusty bell, swaying gently even though there was no wind. The whispers seemed to emanate from it. Suddenly, an apparition appeared before her, a beautiful woman wearing the same gown Stephanie had tried on. The spirit spoke. "I am Ilara, a former actress of this theatre. That gown was mine. I died in a tragic accident here, and my spirit has been trapped ever since. I need your help." Stephanie, though terrified, felt a wave of compassion. "How can I help you?" she asked. Ilara replied, "On the night of the first show, ring this bell 3 times at midnight. That will set my spirit free." The night of the grand reopening arrived. As the clock struck midnight, Stephanie climbed up to the belfry. With a deep breath, she rang the bell thrice. As the final chime faded, Ilara's spirit emerged, smiling gratefully, and then slowly dissipated into the night. From that night on, the Belfry Theatre flourished, but the bell in the belfry never rang again. Stephanie kept the gown as a reminder of the mysterious actress who had once graced the stage, and the night she set a trapped spirit free.
On a murky October morning at George J. Elementary School, a peculiar incident unfolded that left the walls echoing with a haunting melody. Mrs. Chase, a gentle soul, dedicated her life to nurturing young minds. She arrived early that fateful day,
clutching a box of freshly baked donuts, intending to treat her diligent students. As the ancient clocks of the school ticked eerily, a cold breeze whispered through the desolate hallways, guiding her toward the girls' washroom.
Rumors had plagued the school, tales of haunting cries and ghostly appearances that frequented that very place. But Mrs. Chase bore a heart of courage. Compelled by an unsettling curiosity, she tentatively stepped through the threshold. The washroom mirrors, stained by the passage of time, flickered with the images of giggling girls long since past. Faucets turned on, letting loose a flow of icy water that seemed to murmur the sorrows of forgotten souls. She felt a cold breath on her nape, causing the hairs on the back of her neck to stand on end. Clinging tightly to the box of donuts, she paced through the haunted lavatory, the air thick with an eerie sense of foreboding. The room echoed with the sinister laughter of unseen presences, enveloping her in a spine-chilling embrace.
timeless curse that plagued the haunted restroom. Trembling, Mrs. Chase placed the donuts upon a sinister-looking countertop, their sweetness overpowered by the malignant air. An unseen force swept through the room, the donuts floating in the haunted space, circling like spectral orbs, and then, in a blink, vanished into the abyss of the supernatural. The mirrors began to ripple, unveiling a chilling sight. The reflection of ghostly girls appeared, their eyes hollow, faces pale as death itself,
munching on the disappeared donuts, their laughter resonating with a bone. Chilling melody. Gasping for breath, Mrs. Chase fled, her footsteps echoing through the cursed hallways. The haunting laughter of the ghostly girls followed her, weaving through the icy air like a relentless spirit. The school's ancient doors slammed shut behind her, reverberating with a phantom's farewell. The tale of that petrifying morning became an eternal whisper in the haunted chronicles of George J. Elementary. The eerie aura of the girls' washroom, forever marked by the ghostly rendezvous and the mysterious vanishing of Mrs. Chase's donuts.
In a quaint village where echoes of the past lingered in the foggy streets, there sat an eerie pub, the Fernwood Inn. A young and passionate man named Mike managed the inn. With his fresh spirit and enthusiasm, he filled the rooms with warmth and light, enchanting customers with delightful tales and hearty laughter. One mysterious evening, as a cold breeze sent shivers through the ancient timber of the inn, a shadowy figure entered, veiled in a cloak of secrecy. Mike, with eyes wide with curiosity, welcomed her with a gentle smile and a comforting mug of ale. The stranger sat in the corner where the candlelight flickered hesitantly, casting erratic shadows that seemed to tell stories of their own. As the clock ticked towards midnight, the atmosphere began to thicken with a sinister energy. The soft murmurs of the inn's few remaining guests faded into an unsettling silence. The stranger revealed her face to Mike, her eyes hollow with an ancient sadness, and her skin pale and cold as the frost outside. In a voice that echoed with the sorrow of 1,000 lost souls, she whispered, "Fernwood Inn harbors the spirits of the forgotten, and tonight it yearns for a guardian." An icy wind swept through the room, quenching the fires and leaving the inn in a disquieting darkness. The mysterious woman disappeared into the shadows, leaving Mike alone amidst the haunted whispers of the ancient walls. After that eerie encounter, the inn became a vortex of paranormal mysteries. Shadows flickered with an otherworldly presence, and chilling echoes resonated in its once warm and welcoming halls. Mike, now a keeper of the inn's ghostly inhabitants, felt the invisible threads of their tales weave around his youthful spirit. His bright eyes now flickered with the ethereal shadows of the stories he had become a part of, turning the Fernwood Inn into an everlasting chamber of spectral legends.
Desolate corners of a forgotten town stood an ancient high school known to all as Vic High. Its walls echoed with eerie tales of a ghostly presence, and its hallways were shrouded in an unsettling silence that could chill the bones of the bravest souls. Local legend spoke of mysterious shadows and ghostly figures haunting the decaying classrooms and murky bathrooms, ensuring that very few dared to step inside when the sun bid the earth goodbye. Terrence, a burly man with calloused hands and a spirit resilient to otherworldly fears, was the high school's facilities repairman. His tasks were manifold, fixing everything from creaky doors to flickering lights, but his most ominous duty was to patrol the dimly lit hallways of Vic High during the witching hours. One cold, moonless night, as the clock's hands crept towards midnight, Terrence embarked on his nocturnal rounds, armed with a rusty wrench and an old flashlight, whose light trembled as much as the tales of the haunted school. He treaded through the corridors, where the air was thick with an unspeakable eeriness. Shadows danced ominously around him, and an icy wind whispered the forgotten names of those who once roamed the haunted classrooms. As Terrence walked past room 113, a room notorious for its paranormal activities, he heard a spine-chilling sound. The screeching of a chair across the dusty floor reverberated through the lifeless halls. He carefully pushed the door open, and the room unveiled itself in an ominous display. The windows were rattling, and the old, worn-out textbooks were flipping pages as if invisible hands were reading through them hastily. Summoning all his courage, Terrence stepped inside. The temperature dropped drastically, and his flashlight began to flicker violently. Just as he aimed to tighten a loose bolt on a dangling light fixture, he heard a soft yet haunting melody. It seemed like a chorus of spectral voices was humming an ancient school anthem, their tones echoing with 1,000 lost stories. The room filled with a spectral glow, and the figure of a ghostly student appeared before him, dressed in the old uniform of Vic High. Its eyes were hollow pools of sorrow, and its face was a mask of eternal torment. It glided toward Terrence, reaching out with a hand that shimmered with an ethereal coldness. As the phantom touched his shoulder, Terrence felt a bone-chilling cold rush through his body. Time seemed to twist and warp, and the room swirled into a vortex of terror. The ghostly figure whispered, "Help us," and just as quickly, the room returned to an unsettling calmness. Terrence, heart racing and breath caught in his throat, staggered back. His tools scattered across the floor, forgotten monuments to his interrupted task. He hurried out of the haunted chamber, the eerie melodies and tormented shadows in grim pursuit. His experiences were etched into his soul, a dark secret he carried until the end of his days. Vic High remained a realm of lingering spirits and unforgiving haunts, and Terrence, its mortal guardian, forever bound to its ghostly grip.
Once in the murk of a coastal village, where the fog hung heavy and the sea whispered the secrets of the deep, lived a fisherman named Bob. Bob was no ordinary fisherman. His heart carried a heavy burden. Every dusk, as the sun kissed the ocean goodbye, his beloved wife would stand at the doorway, her hopeful eyes glistening like the stars above, and she'd ask of him, "Bob, will you bring back starfish tonight?" Bob would nod, his eyes drowning in a sea of determination, setting sail into the abyss in pursuit of his wife's desires. But fate was a cruel tempest, and the oceans merciless. Day by day, night by night, The nets came back empty of starfish, each miss adding weight to Bob's sinking heart. Consumed by the shadowy waters of despair, Bob sailed out one gloomy night, the anchor heavy in his hand, much like the sorrow in his heart. With a shivering breath, he tied the cold metal around his ankle, letting the relentless sea embrace him in its cold arms forever. The village was wrapped in tales of sorrow and the eerie silence of lost souls. But one fateful night, when the moon hid behind the clouds and the waves roared with a ghostly fury, the tale turned terrifyingly real. In the deathly quiet of his home, the widow's room filled with the petrichor of the salty sea, and an icy chill danced through the air. The door creaked open, whispering the haunted tunes of the deep. There, at the foot of the bed, stood Bob, or the remnants of what once was a loving husband. A skeleton now stood, draped not in the fabrics of the mortal, but covered in the ghostly embrace of ethereal starfish. His hollow eyes, echoing the darkness of the abyss, fixated on his wife. The room filled with the sound of dripping water and the rustling of starfish, as Bob's bony hand reached out, echoing the sorrow and yearning of a lost soul. The ghostly figure lurked closer, his presence like the shadows of forgotten ships beneath the waves, each step reverberating with the eerie echoes of the deep. The widow, feeling the cold embrace, woke up, her eyes meeting the haunting skeleton of her beloved. Her screams filled the night, mingling with the wails of the ocean's winds, as the starfish-covered specter whispered the tragic tales of unfulfilled promises. And so, it became the haunted melody of the village, the room forever cursed with the lingering spirit of the fisherman, eternally in search of starfish, eternally drowning in the sorrowful seas of despair. The shadows of Bob's love and tragedy forever haunting the lonely nights, a stark reminder of the gloomy depths of the unforgiving oceans.
In the heart of a quaint, sleepy town, nestled between rolling hills, there stood a coffee shop named Little June. This charming little cafe was known for its rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and its cozy, dimly lit atmosphere. It was the kind of place where locals gathered to share stories and secrets, but there was one story that was whispered only in hushed tones: the legend of Kyle. Kyle was a mysterious figure in town, a man of few words who was often seen sitting alone at the corner table of Little June. He was a tall, gaunt man with hollow eyes and a face etched with a lifetime of sorrow. Some said he had been a regular at the cafe for as long as anyone could remember, but no one knew much about him. One chilly autumn evening, a group of friends, curious and daring, decided to approach Kyle. They gathered around his table, their breath visible in the crisp air, and struck up a conversation. Kyle, usually reticent, began to open up, as if the darkness that shrouded him was ready to spill its secrets. He spoke of a love that had transcended time, a love that had once filled every corner of Little June. Her name was June, and she had been the heart and soul of the cafe, with a smile that could warm even the coldest of hearts. Kyle had fallen deeply in love with her, and for a while, it seemed as though they were destined to be together. But fate is a capricious force, and tragedy struck on a stormy night. June, on her way to close the cafe, had been struck by lightning just outside the door. Kyle, who had been waiting for her inside, rushed out to find her lifeless body in the rain-soaked street. He never recovered from the loss, and Little June lost its luster without her. As Kyle spoke, the room seemed to grow colder, and the dim lights flickered ominously. It was as if the very spirits of Little June were listening to his tale. Suddenly, the door swung open with a chilling creak, and a gust of wind blew out all the candles. The cafe was plunged into darkness, and a ghostly figure appeared, resembling the lost love, June. A collective gasp escaped the lips of the onlookers as the ghostly apparition of June gently touched Kyle's shoulder. With a faint smile, she whispered, "I've waited for you, my love." And they vanished into the night. From that day on, Kyle was never seen again at Little June, and the cafe seemed to regain some of its former warmth and charm. Some say that true love can transcend even death, and on the rarest of occasions, if you visit Little June at just the right time, you might catch a glimpse of the lost lovers, Kyle and June, sharing a fleeting moment in eternity, forever bound by the place they once loved.